Number 7. Luxor hot air balloon crash. In February of 2013, a hot air balloon caught fire in Luxor, Egypt, after completing a flight over the Valley of the Kings. The balloon, operated by sky cruisers, was only about 10 feet from landing when a leak in fuel line sparked a violent blaze. Out of the 21 souls in the basket, only the pilot, with his clothes engulfed in flames, and a British tourist managed to jump out in time. Several other passengers leapt to their deaths as the aircraft started rising rapidly. Then, at about 1,000 feet, a huge explosion ripped the balloon to shreds, leaving the flaming basket to fall towards the ground. Michael Rennie, the tourist who survived, watched in horror as his wife Yvonne plummeted to her death. Badly burnt, he ran for hundreds of yards, screaming after her, but there was nothing that anyone could do. With 19 casualties, the 2013 Luxor accident is considered the deadliest ballooning disaster to have ever occurred. It's second only to the Hindenburg crash in the history of aerostat disasters. The hot air balloon is humanity's oldest form of flight. Going back to the late 18th century, paper manufacturers and aviation pioneers Joseph Michel Montgolfier and his brother Jacques Etienne are credited for creating the first hot air balloon. Joseph was reportedly watching a fire and pondered how one could assault the impregnable Gibraltar fortress from the air. The siege would have used the same force that lifted embers from the fire. The brothers' invention had its first untethered manned flight in 1783. While the design of the hot air balloon has improved throughout history, the operating principle remains the same. It consists of a giant bag called the envelope, which contains heated air from an open flame, usually powered by liquid propane. Because the air in the bag is less dense than the air outside it, the aircraft achieves buoyancy. Wind provides the direction while controlling the air temperature inside the envelope enables the pilot to establish altitude. Below the bag is a gondola or a wicker basket that carries the passengers. While generally considered the safest of aviation sports, hot air ballooning has seen a number of tragic accidents throughout the years. Number 6. 2016 Lockhart hot air balloon crash. The Lockhart hot air balloon crash, which occurred on July the 30th of 2016, is the deadliest ballooning disaster in the history of the US. The aircraft was carrying a pilot and 15 passengers when it struck power lines and crashed into a field near Lockhart, Texas. A witness described hearing 2 gun-like pops as the balloon went down. There were no survivors. Emergency services en route to the crash had been informed of a possible vehicle collision, but arrived to find the flaming basket of a hot air balloon. The subsequent investigation attributed the power line collision to human error, as the pilot should have never flown that day. There were conditions of low clouds and fog that made it difficult to avoid obstacles. The pilot was taking prescription drugs while suffering from depression and ADHD. 2 years later, new legislation passed, and it entailed mandatory medical examinations for commercial balloon pilots. Hot air ballooning is practiced all over the world in various exhibitions or competitions. The largest hot air ballooning events are the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta in the US, the Grand Es Mondial Air in France, and the Bristol International Balloon Fiesta in England. There are several forms of competitive ballooning, but most involve precision flying near pre-established targets and drop-in weighted markers. In one variation, there's a hare and hound race in which one balloon chases after another. The altitude record for a hot air balloon flight is just shy of 70,000 feet, and it was established in 2005 by Vijay Pat Singhania. To put his daring feat into perspective, the record is more than twice the height of Mount Everest. The overall appeal of ballooning is centered on stunning sights, the feeling of lack of movement, and the extreme quiet experienced at altitude. Except for the climbs and descents into air currents of different speed or direction, the passengers feel no wind. Number 5. Lucerne hot air balloon accident. In 2004, several passengers were injured and a tourist was killed in a hot air balloon accident in Lucerne, Switzerland. The aircraft was operated by the Lucerne Museum of Transport. After taking off, the balloon was caught in strong winds that sent it into buildings nearby. As the balloon struck the walls, one passenger, an Indian tourist, fell through an opening in the floor of the gondola. The impact killed her instantly. Other passengers on board sustained injuries, but none were life-threatening. After approximately 20 minutes, the balloon landed. It was later determined that the museum had been responsible for the accident, as it shouldn't have allowed the flight under such strong winds. Number 4. 1989 Alice Springs Crash. 13 lives were lost in August of 1989 as two hot air balloons collided in mid-air near Alice Springs, Australia. In the early hours of the morning, one balloon ascended and its basket engulfed the envelope of a lower balloon. This caused a tear about the size of a bedsheet at the top of the envelope. The aircraft deflated and went plummeting towards the ground. The 2,000-foot descent, nearly twice as tall as the Eiffel Tower, lasted less than a minute, and the high-speed impact killed everyone on board. It was reported that some of the bodies were launched clear of the basket. Both balloons were operated by the same company, and an investigation found that the pilot of the upper balloon had failed to give way to the lower balloon as stipulated in the company's manual. Both aircrafts had been fitted with ultra-high frequency radios, but neither pilot had contacted the other to correlate their actions and potentially avoid collision. There are a number of risks associated with hot air ballooning which, given the altitude, have potentially deadly implications. These range from falling out of the balloon and mid-air collisions to fires, breaking out from faulty equipment, excessive speed during landing, or colliding with high-voltage power lines. The latter is a major issue, particularly since pilots will often try to land their balloons on or near roads which, in rural areas, often have power lines running alongside them. The combined weight of an average basket and its passengers can easily exceed that of a large automobile. This means that being pinned or struck by a landing balloon is also a danger. Getting caught in strong winds and losing control of the balloon in flight or during landing is another. In one of the worst-case scenarios of hot air ballooning, the aircraft catches fire uncontrollably, leaving the pilots and others on board with a horrific predicament. They can jump and die crashing to the earth or otherwise burn alive. Number 3. 2012 Ljubljana Marshes Crash. In 2012, several lives were lost as the world's largest serially manufactured hot air balloon crashed in Slovenia's Ljubljana marshes. The aircraft, which was the largest in the country, was roughly 17 feet long and had 4 compartments. On August the 23rd, the hot air balloon was operated by 2 crewmen and carried 32 passengers, most of whom were tourists. A sudden change in weather forced the pilot to make an immediate landing. However, as the balloon was approaching land, a wind shear sent it into nearby trees. The aircraft caught fire. 4 passengers were killed instantly and charred beyond recognition, while 2 would later succumb to their injuries. Every passenger on board was injured, and 10 of them had to be resuscitated. An investigation would later cite insufficient meteorological planning as one of the causes for the accident. Based on the analysis of a foreign expert, the pilot was exonerated of the crash 2 years later. Today's topic was requested by Crimson Fire and Black RSF 3Y2K. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Roezier Crash. Jean-François Pilatier de Roezier and François-Laurent Delons were the ones who took the Montgolfier brothers' creation for its first manned flight in 1783. De Roezier would continue to make aviation history. He designed his own aircraft, which was a hybrid of a hydrogen and hot air balloon. In June of 1785, he attempted to cross the English Channel from France to England in his balloon. De Roezier and his flight companion were making some progress when a strong gust of wind knocked them back a few miles from their starting point. Their balloon then caught fire under unknown circumstances and suddenly deflated. Both men died after crashing from an estimated 1,500 feet, which is higher than the Empire State Building. De Roezier and his companion are believed to be the first air crash fatalities in history. Since hot air balloons are essentially at the mercy of the wind, weather is one of the greatest hazards. However, thanks to advanced technology providing monitoring and updates on air current patterns, it's also the most manageable. Modern balloons have come a long way since the Montgolfier prototypes. The introduction of propane tanks and ripstop nylon are major milestones. That being said, even the best equipment can put a balloon's pilot and passengers in danger if not properly checked and maintained. Power lines are the bane of ballooning, so landing near them should only be done as a last resort. From the passenger's perspective, proper caution should be taken when leaning over the basket, and the pilot's instructions should be followed at all times.
Before we move on, official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. It's out of this world.
Number 1. Carterton Crash of 2012. In January of 2012, a hot air balloon was preparing to land in Carterton, New Zealand. The pilot made an error in judgment as the aircraft was dangerously approaching high voltage power lines. He tried to climb higher rather than use the rapid descent system and quickly bring the balloon to the ground below. An investigation later revealed that the pilot had THC in his system, meaning he may have been under the influence of cannabis, which could have impaired his assessment of the situation. The hot air balloon crashed into the 33,000 volt power lines. A fire erupted, and then the conductor wire on the power line snapped, sending the balloon shooting upwards. The fire rapidly engulfed the entire aircraft, and the envelope disintegrated. The balloon crashed from approximately 500 feet, killing all 11 people on board. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be in a hot air balloon that caught fire 50 feet from the ground, or try to escape a ship that had sunk to the same distance? Let us know in the comments section below.